Now let's go ahead and create the resume section. Come over here and create a section tag with the class resume. Also, give it the class section to add some space at the top and bottom. Inside the resume section, first, we will add the section title. For that, copy the work section title and paste it here. Now change the text. Next, create a div tag with the class resume container. Add the class container to make the width of the resume section smaller and keep it centered. Also, add the class grid to turn resume container into a grid container. Inside the resume container, create a div tag with the class resume group. Inside the resume group, we will first add the title and then add the items. Now go ahead and add a h3 tag with the class resume title. After that, create a div tag with the class resume items. Inside the resume items, create a div tag with the class resume item. Inside that, first create a div tag with the class resume header. Inside the resume header, add a h3 tag with the class resume header title. Then create a span tag with the class resume icon. Inside that, add an icon. Next, create a div tag with the class resume content. Then create a div tag with the class resume content header. Inside that, add a h3 tag with the class resume content title. Then, create a span tag with the class resume date. After the resume content header, create a p tag with the class resume description. Now, copy the resume item and paste it twice. After that, copy the resume group and paste it once. Then, add data to each group. Now let's move on to the CSS file. Come over here and select the Resume Container class. First, give it a Grid Template Columns property. The number of columns we need is 2, and their width will be 1 fr. Then, set column gap to 1.5 rem. Next, select the Resume Title class. First, set its font size to H3 font size. Next, set padding bottom to 2 rem. Then set text align to center. Then, select the Resume Title class and the Resume Item class as well. And set border bottom to 2 pixels solid and use border color for its color. After that, select the Resume Item class excluding the first child. And set border right to 2 pixels solid and use border color for its color. Now select the Resume Item class once again and set its position to relative. Then set padding inline to 1.5 rem. Next, select the Resume Header class and set padding block to 1.5 rem. Then set cursor to pointer. Then select the Resume Header Title class and set its font size to larger font size. After that, select the Resume Icon class. First, set its position to absolute. Next, set right to -1.25 rem and bottom to -1.25 rem as well. Then set its background color to container color. After that, set its border. Also add a box shadow to it. Now change its color to title color. Next, set its font size to H3 font size. Then set its font weight to font medium. And its width will be 40 pixels. Height will also be 40 pixels. After that, set border radius to 50%. To center the icon, set Display to Grid and place items to center. Finally, set Z-index to 10. Now select the Resume Content Header class. First, set Display to Flex. Next, set Flex Wrap to Wrap. Then, set Align Items to Center. After that, set Justify Content to Space Between. Finally, set Row Gap to 0.25 rem and Column Gap to 2 rem. Next, select the Resume Content Title class. And set its font size to H3 font size. Then, select the Resume Date class. First, change its color to title color. Next, set its font size to smaller font size. Then set font weight to font bold. After that, select the Resume Description class and set margin block to 1.25 rem for the top and 2 rem for the bottom. Now come over here and select the Resume Content class. First, set its height to 0. Then, set Overflow to Hidden. Now let's move on to the JS file. First, create a variable named accordion item and select all elements in the document with the class resume item. Next, using the for-each method, loop through each element in the accordion item's node list. Inside the loop first, create a variable named header and select the element with the class resume header that is inside the current accordion item. Next, create a variable named content and select the element with the class resume content. Then create a variable named icon and select the icon inside the resume icon class. After that, add a click event to the header. Inside this function, create a variable named isOpen and toggle the accordion open class on the current accordion item. After that, let's set the height of the accordion content. Here we will check if isOpen is true, meaning the item is open. If so, set the height to the scroll height of the content. If isOpen is false, meaning the item is closed, set the height to 0. Now let's change the icon to reflect the open or closed state. If isOpen is true, change the icon class to RI_line, which represents a minus sign. If isOpen is false, change the icon class to RI_line, which represents a plus sign. Here, you can see that when we open one item, the previous one doesn't close. Let's implement this functionality. Using the for-each method, loop through each element in the accordion item node list. Here we will check if other item is not equal to the item that was clicked. And if it contains the class accordion open. If both conditions are true, we will set the content height to 0. Also, change the icon to a plus sign and remove the accordion open class. Now let's apply a transition to the resume content class for smoothness. Now that we have completed the resume section, let's move on to the next section, the Testimonials section. Create a section tag with the class Testimonials. Also, give it the class section to add some space at the top and bottom. Now copy the resume section title and paste it here. Then change the text. After that, create a div tag with the class container. Inside the container, create a div tag with the swiper class, and also give it the testimonial swiper class. Inside that, create a div tag with the swiper wrapper class. Inside the swiper wrapper, create a div tag with the swiper slide class and also give it the card class. Inside that, first, create a div tag with the class testimonial icon. Here, we will insert an icon. Next, create an IMG tag with the class testimonial IMG. And insert the image path in the SRC attribute. Then create a P tag with the class testimonial description. After that, add a h3 tag with the class testimonial name. Finally, add a span tag with the class testimonial author. Now copy the slide and paste it 4 times. Now let's move on to the JS file. Copy the services swiper code and paste it here. Then, update the class name to Testimonials Swiper. Now let's move on to the CSS file. Come over here and select the testimonial icon class. First, set its position to absolute. Next, set top to Turim and left to 2.25 rem. Its width will be 66 pixels, and height will also be 66 pixels. Then, set its background color to container color. After that, set border bottom right radius to 1 rem. Finally, change its color to first color. And set its font size to 2.5 rem. Next, select the testimonial image class. First, set image height to 180 pixels. Next, set its width to 100%. Then set object fit to cover. After that, set border radius to 1 rem. Finally, set margin bottom to 1.5 rem. Then, select the testimonial description class and set minimum height to 110 pixels. After that, select the testimonial name class. First, set its font size to larger font size. Then, set margin block to 2 rem for the top and 0.25 rem for the bottom. Now, let's proceed to the Contact section. Come over here and create a section tag with the class Contact. Also, give it the class section. Now copy the Testimonials Section title and paste it here. then change the text. Next, create a div tag with the class contact container. Add the class container to make the width of the contact section smaller and keep it centered. Also, add the class grid to turn contact container into a grid container. Inside the contact container, we will add two child elements. The first will contain the contact information, while the second will hold the form. Now let's create a div tag with the class contact content, which will be the first child element. Inside that, create a div tag with the contact card class. Inside the contact card, first create a span tag with the class contact icon. Here we will insert an icon. Next, create a div tag. And inside this div, first add a h3 tag with the class contact title. Then create a p tag with the class contact data. Now copy the contact card and paste it 3 times. Now, after the contact content, create a form tag with the class contact form. This will be our second child element. Also, add the class grid. Inside the contact form, create a div tag with the class contact form group. Also, add the class grid. Inside the Contact Form group, create a div tag with the class Contact Form div. Inside that, first create a label tag with the class Contact Form label. After that, add an input tag with the class Contact Form input. Its type will be text. Also, give it an ID contact name. Now copy the Contact Form div and paste it once inside the Contact Form group class div and twice outside of this div. Now create a div with the class Contact Submit. Inside that, First, create a span tag. After that, add a button tag with the class btn. Also, set its type to submit. Finally, create a p tag with the class message. This will contain the following message. Now let's move on to the CSS file. Select the contact class and set padding bottom to 14 rem. Next, select the contact container class. First, give it a grid template columns property. The first column's width will be 5 fr, and the second column's width will be 7 fr. This means the contact container width is divided into 12 parts, where the first column occupies 5 parts and the second column occupies 7 parts. After that, set column gap to 1.5 rem. Then select the contact card class. First, set display to grid. Next, set grid template columns to max content and 1 fr. Then set align items to center. After that, set column gap to 4.5 rem. Finally, set margin bottom to 2.5 rem. After that, select the contact icon class. Also, select the contact form input class. First, set their border to 2 pixels solid. Then, set background color to container color. Now select the contact icon class once again. First, set its width to 56 pixels, and its height will also be 56 pixels. Next, set border radius to 50%. Then add a box shadow. After that, set its font size to H3 font size. To center the icon, set display to grid and place items to center. Finally, set position to relative. Now target the after pseudo element of the contact icon class. First, give it a content property. Next, set position to absolute. Then set left to 100%. and top to 50%. After that, set its width to 40 pixels and height to 2 pixels. Finally, set background color to border color. Next, select the contact title class. First, set its font size to H3 font size. Then set margin block to 0.5 rem. Then, select the contact form class. And set row gap to 1.75 rem. After that, select the contact form group class. First, give it a grid template columns property. The number of columns we need is 2, and their width will be 1 fr. Then set gap to 1.75 rem. Now select the contact form div class. First, set display to grid. Then set row gap to 0.5 rem. Next, select the contact form label class. First, set text indent to 1.75 rem. Then set its font size to small font size. After that, set font weight to font bold. Then select the B tag inside the contact form label and change its color to first color. After that, select the contact form input class. First, set padding to 1 rem for the top and bottom, and 1.75 rem for the left and right. Then, set border radius to 1.75 rem. Now select the contact form area class. First, set resize to none. Then, set its height to 140 pixels. Then select the contact submit class. First, set display to flex. Next, set flex wrap to wrap. Then set align items to center. After that, set justify content to flex end. Finally, set row gap to 1 rem and column gap to 2 rem. After that, select the message class. First, set its position to absolute. Then set bottom to 0.75 rem. And right to 1.25 rem. After that, set its font weight to font medium. Now let's move on to Email.js. I have already created an account. If you don't have one, create it and log in. First, we need to add an email service. Now select Gmail and then connect your account. Finally, create the service. Next, go to the Email Templates page and create a new template. This template is what you will receive whenever someone sends you an email from your website. These parameters that you see here must also be present on your website. Now, let's make changes to the template. Now let's include Email.js in our project. After that, add a name attribute to the inputs and ensure their values match the parameters in the email template. Now let's move on to the JS file. First, create a variable named contact form to store the element with the ID contact form. Now let's add this ID in the HTML. Next, create a variable contact name to store the input field with the ID contact name. Then, create a variable contact email to store the input field with the ID contact email. Next, create a variable contact message to store the element with the ID contact message. After that, create a variable contact subject to store the input field with the ID contact subject. Then, create a variable message to store the element with the ID message. Now create a function called sendEmail. Pass a here as a parameter to access the event object. When a form is submitted, the page reloads. e.preventDefault stops this from happening. Now, we will check if any of the input fields are empty. .value is a property used to access the value entered in an input field. Or operator means the condition is true if any of the inputs is empty. First, we will add the class color red to message. Now let's style this class in CSS. Next, set the text of the message to "Write all the input fields." And we will remove this message after 3 seconds. In the else block, we will send the email. Now go back to email.js. Copy this code. And paste it here. After that, let's pass the values for these arguments. First, we have to pass the service ID. Next, the template ID. Then, the form ID. Finally, the public key. Here first, let's add the Color First class to change the color of the message. Next, set the message text to Message Sent. And remove this message after 5 seconds. If any error occurs, we will display an alert with this message. Now, let's add an event listener to the form. When the form is submitted, we will trigger the Send Email function. Actually, the message is positioned relative to the body, so set the position to relative on the parent element of the message. This will ensure that the message is positioned relative to its parent element. For now, ignore its position. We will set it later. Now let's clear the input fields when the form is submitted. Also, remove the Color First class before adding the Color Red class.